Time. Yeah, we are live. God, that took ages. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, wherever you might be in the world. I was going to kick off with Mavic 3s and how deaf they were, but about an hour ago, 2 hours ago, this fell onto the interwebs from the Wall Street Journal. They claim to have more evidence that ties DJI with state-owned companies. Where are you guys? We're here.
I've read Wall Street Journal drone stories. I wouldn't trust them as far as you can kick them.
Washington Post. That's
well, there you go. That's totally different. That just
that's all right then, isn't it? Yeah, that's okay. I think really, I'm not sure that this isn't nothing we didn't already know.
Yeah.
It's just people seem to have to be told again. I don't know. Oh, good. iForce 2Ds here. We may begin. That's good. I don't know. Well, any thoughts? Any thoughts on this one?
So how is this different? So in the UK, we have this thing where, you can get grant funding and everything. So how much different is that to this, for example? So let's say you got a company in the UK. Let's say DJI was in the UK, and they got a bit of grant funding from the government, right? Because it's possible you can get all this grant funding. How is it different to this?
I think it's different by multi-millions.
Let's take it a bit further. Everybody's been getting handouts while the COVID pandemic's been on. So all companies have been subsidised by the government. Every company in the world has got this government subsidy going on. So how's this different?
Well, it's different. First off the bat, if you read SUAS News, we did a story about funding the Chinese government funding DJI back in 2019, and it would appear that the Washington Post did not pick it up. But there's, let's say, behind the Great Firewall over there, it's hard to suss out what's going on. But there are reports that they got 1.5 billion in funding total. And the new China Life Insurance Company was one of the entities that funded them, primarily owned by the Chinese government and used as a sovereign fund. So it kind of cracks me up over here in the United States. We have our Blue UAS and all these people. We're going to go ahead and we're going to have drones, and they're going to be domestic made drones. And we've got an investment of $50 million, or even Sony or the rest of this. It's a false reality, because the DJI has got so much money. And even before we started, you guys were talking about how cheap this FPV stuff is. Go to China, you go to Shenzhen, you go to the International Innovation Zone, and all of this stuff is for sale direct from the factory. So there are a couple of differences. One, I know that the UK, the government in England is liberal, but they're not communist. And in the Chinese case, we've got we have a little something different there. And I'm not going to say that it's even a bad thing, because really here in the United States, and I've been doing a lot of military, let's say DoD webinars, talking a couple of $100,000 to help companies, maybe $1 million to help companies. You're not going to catch the Chinese, and that's even not even considering the compulsory labor thing. But moving on from that, the other issue that we have is DJI's domestic policy and PR team, again, has egg on their face. These people, up and down, you're a conspiracy theorist, you're wearing a tinfoil hat, we're not getting any funding from the government, we don't know anything about that. I mean, you guys have all worked at companies for, a few years. I mean, I want to know, I can do some research on the companies that I'm working for, because I don't want to be a commie stooge. So I think it shows that, some of these companies and some of the people are totally untrustworthy.
Well, thing is, I was going to, sorry, Gary, I was just going to go in and go, see, I don't think it's bad. See, I just think the rest of the world is nuts not doing it. This is the problem,
That's sort of what I was going to say. Yeah.
From the point of view, look, if you're a nation who wants to get on, and you want business to get on, ignoring the stealing of software and all of the open source crap, let's just look at the basics of this. If their government is going to create industries and bang a massive amount of money behind it, communist, capitalism, whatever, is it the right thing to do in the end if it creates industry businesses. And I just think we've got ourselves in the West into this position of, and it's not just, it's the US and the UK is really bad at this, of the government won't get involved. We can't get involved in private business.
Yeah.
Well, it's the general public who pay in the end. If you take the electricity companies, we've got electricity companies falling over left, right, and center in the UK because they can't afford to operate because of the change in the pricing. If they were state owned, we wouldn't have this problem. So I'm not saying it's all right, but they're not dull. And I just don't think they've got their head screwed on you. This is the thing.
We all are from a time DJI, before DJI. We know we saw them arrive on the scene. We saw them grow from a tiny company that made failed helicopter controllers into the multi-rotors, and they were backed. And when they started, there was this huge exceptionalism from Europe, from America, from England. Oh, no, China will never do it. No, you're talking rubbish. You're talking rubbish. We're the best in the world, and that's that. No one will ever catch us up. Now, the following week, when China had caught them up, and they, as you say, Ian, they were backed. And yeah, there probably is nothing wrong with that. And American companies are not only, and English and European companies are playing catch up from a position of 10 years without investment from whoever. It's not just
an interesting thing I was going to say just before. Sorry, Gary. And I was just going to say this, right?
No.
We've got two monsters, right? Two monster companies in the world right now. There's a few of them, but you've got Apple, Google, Microsoft. Okay, take Apple. They got to where they are through the fair open market. Is a fair term to use. Okay, Patrick, but do you know what I mean? You can argue they played the system, but they got there through. You can say Microsoft, Google, and Apple got to where they are through capitalism, that model of thing. However, DJI have got to where they are, and let's be honest, they're probably one of the only global Chinese companies I can think of who are top of their game, globally recognized as top of their game as well in their industry. But is it any different how they got there? That's the question. Is Apple or Google any better than DJI corporately? And I think we all know
Google would never spy on you.
Yes. Well, interesting conversation. But okay, so we gotta, if we're gonna broaden the scope, we gotta talk about, the Chinese are actually very forthcoming, and I think in the West we have a problem with reading comprehension, because we've seen multiple examples of this in the past where people lay out their plan and they're not secret about it. Oh, hey, Belt and Road and Made in China 2025 and all the rest of them. The Chinese decided that, hey, there's basically like 5 technologies our country's going to have if you want to be the world dominant power. AI, facial recognition, supercomputing, drones, and what they do is there are businesses in these sectors. There's an ecosystem that they help create, but the businesses, they pick the winner. They pick a winner. They pump money into them, and they go ahead and they succeed and they flourish. I mean, the United States just got back the supercomputer title, and we may have lost it again. I don't know. I don't keep up on it, but that's one issue. The other thing in the West is we are riding on our laurels like this is the 1950s or 60s. Europe is awash in Marshall Plan money. The United States has got 50% of the gold reserves. We've got all of this manufacturing capability, and the same, England and some of the other Western European countries. Okay, so it was a different mindset. You go to work for Citron and Bill Johnson. No, I'm kidding. You go to work for these companies. Same thing that happened with Apple. This homebrew computer thing. I mean, I know a gentleman that was in it, built a computer in a briefcase, a Samsonite briefcase. Steve Wozniak's dad worked at a weapons contracting firm in Silicon Valley and got appearance blems transistors, and they took those and they started with their homebrew computer company. So it was built off of the back of the war machine, where the Chinese are doing something totally different. And I agree with Ian, what you said earlier. If the West wants to play catch up or even on par with the Chinese, you're going to have to emulate the Chinese, and you're going to have to invest in your industry. I don't know how it is in the countries where you guys are, but everybody here is talking about STEM, which I agree with. But where are the jobs? There's they say there's a glut and you could get a job. And as a lark, I posted on LinkedIn, which is supposed to be the spot for jobs, that I'm looking for a job. I got 20 years of experience.
Something interesting Patrick just said is the West has got to emulate the Chinese. And isn't there some irony in that when we look back at what everyone has said for the last 10 years is all the Chinese do is copy everyone else? But the reality is they are a powerhouse. They're investing, ignoring the politics. If you take the base actions of what they're doing, they're investing in industries and they're creating... Well, they're taking strangleholds. Let's be realistic. They took manufacturing 10 years ago. They took that.
China is the new Japan. China is the new Japan.
Yeah. But you have another thing going on in China is, you'll never compete with the compulsory labor thing in China. You can work people 7 days a week. You can't, the Foxconn deal, they're building iPhones. You can't say no. You can't no, I'm not coming in on Sunday. I'm going to go play golf with Bruce or whatever. It just doesn't work that way. Exactly. So, you're not going to do that. The other thing is the West is, everybody's talking about it's green. It's green and climate change and all the rest of that stuff. Well, the coal burn in China is just skyrocketing. And even in Australia, they're like, we're not... Chinese are mad at us and we're mad at them. They're still exporting coal to China, and China's turning into electricity, into iPhones, and shipping them to the West. And it's the same with the labor laws. Imagine down at the pub if you said, hey, anybody here willing to work for, £1 an hour? I got work over it. They're not going to take that. What? I got 5 minutes to take a bathroom break or whatever. So, we've offshored all of our, let's say, Western restraint, be them environmental laws, be them labor laws. You're not going to compete with that. That's why, if you make the Mavic 3 here in the United States, it'd probably be $20,000. Plus, everybody wants
to get GPS.
Well, and you want to make 1,000%.
Well, that's it. Well done. Nicely done, Bruce. Nicely done. Yeah, if only they could buy a decent GPS for their Mavic 3s. I'm not sure it's not more of a feature than a bug, because if I were DJI, I think I would build in a false little acquiring lock to make sure it really had acquired a lock before people just let it fly off. What I've seen, I've seen a couple of YouTubers mention it. I've seen in the DJI forums it's mentioned. We've got. I'll chuck it across to Ian. Do you believe it's got a GPS issue, or is it just something over nothing?
No, I think there's two things playing here. People are used to the old aircraft acquiring sats very quickly. That doesn't mean they had lock. And that's the first fundamental. So you're dealing with basic users who are going, 50, 12, 14 satellites. There is a fundamental difference between sat count and lock. And as we all know. Secondly,
HDOP.
I think that, exactly. HDO, what is the precision accuracy of the lock it's actually got at that time? It can have lots of sats, but it doesn't mean it's locked in fully. The second thing is it does appear they're actually doing something a bit more clever than most people are realizing. It appears to be that it's looking for lock not only on the drone, but on the remote as well. And there's some talk of the guys using the standard remote with a tablet acquiring lock much quicker than people using the smart controller. And what that is telling me, and I haven't got Ben's on hand anymore to play with this, but what I think is going on is DJI are almost using an assisted GPS between the devices. So you've got the GPS, position on the aircraft, and then you've got the RC position. Now, if it's anything like all of the other RCs, they're not using a proper GPS antenna. They're using more of just a linear antenna. They usually use one of those sticker ones that goes along the top. So what I suspect is happening here is it's not actually that the aircraft is taking longer. I think they've introduced a new process that is probably looking for the ground station to get proper lock, so it knows not only with the home point of the aircraft is, but where the home point of the handset is. And this all actually may be related to remote ID.
Yeah.
And this is what people may not be
50
taking into account.
saying that.
I think it's just trying to establish a connection with the server in China to send all your stuff back.
It's funny, if Izero got there, I wasn't reading the comments, and he got there the same as I got there. I think it's that. Now, something I have noticed is in a couple of comments that people are saying if they fly the same day, it's pretty good, but the next day it isn't. That would sort of imply that they might not be using a battery and they might be using a capacitor because obviously the GPS has a lock and it stores the last position of the satellite so it knows where it's at, basically. And I do wonder if they've done something different. It might not even be a U-Blocks unit. It could even be another unit altogether. It is very possible that it's partly that, but people have definitely now started commenting on this remote thing. So I wouldn't be shocked if this isn't hardware. This is a behavior that they've introduced specifically as a result of either requirements, even in China. Let's be honest with this. This may be an overhang from what they've wanted in China, because in China there are a lot more requirements on the drones than there are in the UK and Europe and the US. So it could simply be an inherent behavior that's got left behind. I didn't particularly notice. The one I had was bad. I will be honest.
I suspect you do the old duffer thing that I do, is it's got a lock. I tell you what, I don't smoke. I'll have a virtual cigarette and I'll think about going fly, and then I'll go flying. I never rush to take off. And there's people that just chuck them on the ground and go that end up in all sorts of trouble then.
That's why they have flyaways. That's why they have
exactly
those issues. So I don't personally think this. People are saying, "Oh, well, I'm wasting, 3% of my battery waiting." Well,
rubbish.
That's just the reality of the technology. A fast lock doesn't necessarily mean it's an accurate lock, and what's more important is it knows where it is. But I think there's more.
Can we get the lockpicking lawyer on here? The lockpicking lawyer would know. But the interesting thing is that it's only, people forget, it's only, what is it now, 8 months till any drone has to be shipped with remote ID. They don't have to use it until another year's time, but it's September this year that the manufacturers have to have compliant remote ID fitted. So that the Mavic 3 will still be a current model at that stage, I would think.
And I wouldn't be shocked if they have done this, that it is having to take an accurate position of the ground station before it's showing you where it is.
And that would be interesting if they were trying to rush for the Z requirement of the FAA, which is next to impossible to achieve. So, if they're going for a decent Z position, then it would take a while.
Yeah.
Well, while we're on this subject, did anyone catch the story about Elon Musk and how he's being tracked? And not,
isn't Twitter great?
Twitter is
great. It's really interesting, isn't it? Because he considers it a security thing, doesn't he, Patrick?
It is, and I don't think that, again, it's the best laid plans of mice and men, and it seems like we just keep forgetting history. However, this remote ID thing is, these were some of the qualms that folks had about it. These are some of the issues that people were bringing up. I mean, if you're a celebrity, if you're someone with money, Bruce, you're going to have lots of problems because you got both.
Yeah.
The rest of us are we don't have to worry. But no, it's an issue. Someone's tracking me, and then even if I'm working for a company or a federal, or state entity, and I'm being tracked, and my movements are being tracked, and all the rest of that, I think you're opening up more problems than you've solved with the system. So. I don't know if they were unintended consequences, but then, what they'll probably do is say, okay, well, somehow we're going to turn that off for certain people. And Joe Blow's out here, and he it's like being verified on Twitter or something. Some people can do it. Nobody else knows how to do it, or it costs money, or you have to have connections or whatever else. I think it shows some of the issues with this poor planning on RID. And I got, after you comment, I got one more comment.
also, Patrick, I completely agree with you. So let's say there's a company and they're going to inspect critical infrastructure in America, right? It could be a power station. It could be any kind of important installation. What that remote ID is going to do, all you have to do is sit back and watch the aircraft and how it flies. Because using Google Maps, you can see what they were really looking for and what they were trying to do. If you take one set of data and bring it to another, you don't have to have flown the actual aircraft itself. You can literally go, what were they actually really interested in? Because if they're inspecting something like a nuclear power station, for example, you'll be able to know they've concentrated on one area, and that could be some sort of exhaust port. It could be anything, and you're going to go, oh, we can see all this now, and this is where this is on. It's scary.
Astute observation. Yeah, you're not going to be flying the drone to check the ashtrays in the brake section. You're going to be looking at critical, parts and pieces. So you're creating a problem. And then the other comment I want to make on this is the Part 103 thing, the ultralight microlight thing. So doing more research with that. Those are vehicles. They're not aircraft. And I remember early on, people in the FAA was like, don't call these aircraft, call them vehicles. The FAA doesn't regulate vehicles, but your DOD guys ran right in there and wanted aircraft because they wanted to lock mom and pop out. So, you can fly a 250 some odd pound motorized ultralight, requires no aeronautical knowledge. There's no age limit. You can make money with it. You can do contests and shows, and you can teach and all the rest of this stuff. And finding the safety numbers, for the what I like to call now the skin in the game crowd, or skin in the game gang. It's like hen's teeth trying to find the numbers, and the NTSB doesn't even track safety of it at all. And so the safety of the NAS thing, when I see the FAA tweet out that some kid is going to have to go take a test to fly a little piece of foam around in the in the park, I think we've become communist China. It's pathetic, especially to most of the people on this call who are a little bit older and remember the days of freedom, the good old days. But to me, it's amazing. How can this even be?
It's astounding because here in the UK, you can get a paramotor, strap it on your back, and just
Well, you got skin in the game, like Bruce.
You can fly into a Cessna Caravan, no worries.
Exactly. Or you could, strap a bomb on it and go nuts. It's just, it's the same deal, when people talk about, even here, a lot of people in the military, these webinars that I'm sitting on, everyone's talking about cell phone apps, man. And then it's like, well, what are you going to put your software in? What is the vessel? Is it a Chinese cell phone? Is it a Chinese drone? We've seen what, the asymmetrical warfare thing, what people can do with phones. It's just, it's like 100 lashes or something. You're never going to, you're only going to ruin everyone's quality of life by overregulation. And it's not going to work because the criminals don't pay attention. You guys probably see on the news all over the world.
ID. Of course they will. Come on. Of course they will.
Come on. Since they made speeding illegal, how many people have got speeding tickets? Let's be serious.
Well, it's the same deal here with guns. Machine guns have been illegal. People, you're not supposed to do things with guns, and people do them. Nobody, the people, the criminals do it. They don't care. Oh, geez, they're going to tack another 2 years on because I had a, gun.
By definition, when you criminalize something, only criminals have those things.
So here's an interesting concept then. So remote ID for drones for tracking it is okay. And knowing where the remote pilot is okay. We that's what at the FAA say. That's what RCA say. Everyone's saying that. YARSA, everyone. But if you've got an AirTag, an Apple AirTag, and you drop that into someone's purse and you track them with that, well, that's not allowed.
Well, that's because that person's not signed up to be tracked.
So
you've signed
interesting conflict. If you put If you put an AirTag on someone's drone, are you breaking the law?
If they don't know about it.
If they don't know about it, eh? Really? Could they be prosecuted?
Because that's where I was kind of going. So yeah, people don't care about the law. People just don't. Anyone.
And I'll just put this one up. I'll just quickly mention this one and take it again. But do we see the Assure have? They're going to be telling us about what a drone can do to a tail rotor in the very week that the drone bounced off the front of a squirrel and did absolutely.
But did you see Brendan's comments on that? But if a drone hits a tail rotor, someone could die. Yeah, and I put a link to a video of that Hughes 500 that got hit by a drone in the Baja races, and it hit. You can see the dent on the tail rotor, and still nobody died. And the thing with the Assure test, why do they have to wait for the FAA to accept that test before they publish it? Is it because it may not suit the narrative, or what?
Yeah, absolutely.
If it's the narrative, then that's that, isn't it?
It's going to be dreadful.
It's not only
would not have stopped that crash. Let's just be clear to everyone. Remote ID would not have stopped that race and that drone and that helicopter meeting each other. Remote ID would never have stopped that from happening. A spotter with the drone pilot would have been the better safety option and warning them where the hell the helicopter was and they're getting too close.
Was he deaf?
If both pilots had been at the same briefing, that would have helped. It was the same one company hiring them both to do something, and they weren't at the same briefing.
Yeah, and they were commercial operators, but the impact affects the recreational community who aren't doing this shit.
Yeah. They would have talked and got an offset agreed. So, the helicopter will never come below a certain height. Therefore, the drone will never go above a certain height. Therefore, we've got a safety barrier built in. Nothing bad could possibly happen. But sadly, the drone bounced. Happily, the drone bounced.
This is not without precedence, is it? It's exactly the same as the Canadian police helicopter and Canadian police drone. They're operating under the same authority and managed to come together.
They tried it with a 6 kilo drone. Let's not forget.
Yeah, they tried better job.
They were trying to do it properly.
And the takeaway from this is always get your commercial work done by a recreational flyer.
Exactly. And the other thing is as we go back, I've got about like 4 stories in the hopper, and I'm doing all this research, and it's really hard for me to kick one out because there is so much research that could be done. I'm going through some stuff now back from the ARC days and the second UAS ARC days here. And really the DOD was driving the bus on the integration thing. And I have a little clip, and I don't think you could play it probably because you probably get tagged in on YouTube, Gary. But, it's this guy who was a former Navy SEAL, and he's talking about, he's like, oh, hey, wait. And it's a Raven. He's like, no, this is an old-fashioned drone. Nobody really knows what that is anymore. You had to be like a pilot and skilled to fly it. And now you have the quadcopters that 5-year-olds can fly. That is where, the American effort went down the rabbit hole. And unfortunately, I think, I have a theory about this, that the CAAs around the world, especially UK CAA with the CAP 722 document. You remember the good old days, right, Gary? When you'd read through there and you go, hey, sounds pragmatic to me. Well, I think those guys moved on. They're like, we're moving on and we're going to do something that's meaningful.
They retired. But they didn't. But what that lot didn't do was they didn't retire into a cushy industry job. They just retired. They weren't looking at the golden off-ramp opportunities into whatever they were writing into being. I don't think that's the case now.
They're going to grow. The new breed's taken over, and the new breed is bamboozled by $82 billion and the junkets and everything that the FAA is doing. And people, the other thing with CAAs around the world is when they heard this $82 billion deal, it's going to breathe this breath of fresh air into aviation, and we're going to be saved, and we're going to have jobs, and it's going to grow, and we'll become managers, and it's going to be the money is going to be rolling in, and that just hasn't happened. And another thing when we were talking about resting on the laurels of the 50s and 60s, we just came off of this war on terror thing. And the DOD vendors, man, this cost plus contracting made its own gravy. And people made just boatloads of money, and nobody really cared about the promise of small unmanned aircraft systems let's say, and even the domestic, what I consider a national security issue, and we're trying to slap a Band-Aid on with the blue UAS thing.
They should be just about picking the next tranche of those, shouldn't they? That should be coming out anytime soon.
A lot of complaints over here about that, how that is a political, got to have advocates and insiders. That's how we do stuff here in the United States. The best merits of the product and the people don't matter as much as who your advocates are and who your lobbyists are. So again, it's like you're creating these problems for yourself,
Yeah.
as a company.
Well, ITAR as a country for the US, it was ITAR completely destroyed it. China could walk all over you selling in autopilots, but you couldn't sell them out. It was ridiculous. Still is ridiculous. Hasn't gone away.
Well, after the debacle in Afghanistan, they gave them everything. I mean, everything. So I don't. It almost seems invalidated to me, but I know that that's still an issue, even though they've got. They got all those scan eagles, which are really scan eagles are so old fashioned. But anyway, that's still controlled technology.
But if they're worried about losing their technology to the Chinese, why do they keep throwing F-35s off the decks of bloody aircraft carriers?
I don't know if the Chinese can afford to
into the South China Sea.
Camel
I
like
don't
that.
think. I think it's the way that forces are going to try and get rid of them because they're such a shockingly bad aircraft. They've got to get rid of them one by one.
It's fallen in the water.
Oh dear, yes. Yeah.
Get another one out now.
Yeah.
Remember at Farnborough, Gary, when they had the mock-up?
We need a new aircraft, please, for the carriers.
Yes. You remember at Farnborough, Gary, when they were like, the F-35 is coming, it's going to be here.
Yes, that's right, I do. Yes, no, yeah. And and it spilt. That's right. It spilt all. It blew up on the runway departing in America, didn't it?
Yeah, they had a mock-up or something. Look.
They did. Yes. Yeah, well, I've got the memory sticks here somewhere. I've got some F-35 memory sticks from that. Where are they?
Some memory sticks of the past.
Yeah. Do they have the plans on them? Do they have the plans? Because
yes, that's right. Yes, that's exactly. And the trouble is, of course, I got a memory stick. I put porn on it straight away. I didn't realize I had the plans. Yes, that's right. Yeah, they're rubbish because they're such big memory sticks. They don't really fit into any sort of small computers or anything. Where is one? Is that one there? No.
That thing is that's that old adage about a horse designed by committee turns out a camel. That's what you get right there. I don't know. Anyway.
Well, we've been very, very political. What else was on your rant list, Patrick?
Well, that was pretty much all that I had. Although I think that you're going to see more from the Elon Musk thing. I mean, he tried to offer the kid $5,000, and now the kid's like, "All right, I got a career. I'm going to start hitting all these billionaires."
Yeah. Did you see what the kid's responsible? So you're not going to pay me the $5 million, or give me a Tesla, because he wanted a Tesla, didn't he? He said, "Give me a car, give me a Tesla car, and I will stop the tweet." However, his new version is, okay, so I'm going to do it for every billionaire. Every single one of you now is going to get it. I'm going to tweet where your planes leave and where they go to.
But people haven't picked up that kind of is a security problem. But that's baked into. But it's baked into ADS-B. It's baked into a 1990s technology, and there doesn't seem to be any. Maybe I'm just not seeing it, but there doesn't seem to be any committee standing up to say, right, let's make the system that's going to work in 2100. Let's build it now. Let's say it'll be secure. It'll be digital. It'll be modern. It'll be cheap. It'll be this. It'll be that.
They're too busy working on remote ID, the really important issue.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Why are we wasting money developing something twice? It really astounds me. So drones are going to have this remote ID that's poppycock. It doesn't, it's a crap system. We all agree on that, I believe. It's just a waste of time. It should be a proper transponder of some kind on manned aviation that just all aircraft should have. Doesn't matter what's in the air. You put this transponder on it, and that's all you need to know. Because once everything's got a transponder on it, the drone can then go, oh, yeah, there's another aircraft, and it's at 200 feet or 300 feet away.
Yeah, but here's the problem.
One system's all we need. That's it.
Okay, well here's the problem with that, because again, and this is something that I've observed over my tenure as a curmudgeon. When people think about these problems, they think about one or two. So let's go forward. Gary did a little ATC work. And I know you guys don't have the traffic that we have in some of the larger areas here. Oh, okay.
Yeah, whatever. Twice as much. Yeah.
Okay. Well, stuff over here in like around SFO, hot dog stand and clean up in the air. I mean, it's there's so much going on that you don't even know what's happening. So anyway, when we start thinking about this, and if we look at the estimates that the FAA has for drones and the RC people, and then we're talking about adding AAM in this deal. And this is all under 400 feet, and you're talking about hundreds of thousands. There you go. He's got his souvenir. Hundreds of thousands of aircraft. You got your for your AAM to work. There's going to have to be thousands of flights, and this is all going under 400 feet. Gary, would you like to? What do you think that the scope's going to look like?
Well, I think that is missed by a lot of people. It's also what's missed is the fact that even now in a modern traffic environment, there's a thing called MTI, moving target indicator. You can say I don't want to see anything that's flying below 70 knots because my clouds, so I don't care about it. So you even now a controller will turn down what he can see. Stop him seeing trains in the case of Lynham trains on the main line.
But they should know where the trains are because trains set planes. We've seen that recently.
Well, yeah, but then you draw a line. There's a physical line drawn on the radar for the train track because the 125 train will flip up the MTI. In North Devon, where I work, there was a particular high bit of Exmoor where the vans would pop up. There'd be pop-up traffic in the same place, and it'd be a high-sided van going over the moors. So you'd had to know about that. So yeah, there's all sorts of things that
you could just put filters in, like you said.
Well, that's exactly what there's now. So it's so what the controller's seeing is pretty synthetic. So, but we should have. Oh yeah,
because if you needed to know about aircraft around in the ATZ, you could just say, right, I want to know everything around the ATZ, and you just go everything up to 6,000 feet. I don't care what's at 10,000 feet or 20,000 feet. Who cares about them up there? They're out the way. You only care about what's coming into my ATZ or leaving,
Well, there should be a more modern way of looking at the sky, basically.
Yeah.
Which isn't there.
Well, and I think people are under the delusion that this is all going to be automated. There's going to be some computer here taking control of that. And the same deal with the AAM. AAM, a lot of people believe that, you see, like we saw Boeing invested $450 million in Whisk, which is a two-seater. If you have a pilot, how are you going to make any money on this deal? So everybody's like, oh, it's going to all be automated, and then the snail's pace of certification. So I'm going to let you in on a little secret. So I've seen, some of the ideas now are airways that are at higher altitudes, 20 some 100 odd feet for this AAM traffic to fly around, which I think plays right into Gary's thing of no GA below 2K. All right.
Yeah.
So I don't see how you're going to handle this kind of traffic and let's say diversity of aircraft and drones and all the rest of that stuff, and keep everyone separated. Your IFR separation under 400 feet. I mean, that's another issue.
Oh, well, that AAM, UAM, that's going to be VFR for years. That won't be IFR for years, regardless if it's autonomous. That'll be years past once they get certified. They won't get certified for IFR for years, decades.
And then they'll just be used for delivering pizza anyway.
He's throwing cold water on the fantasy over here. But what is, what is the airspace separation now? I mean, and you're saying you're gonna have tens of thousands of drones and tens of thousands of these AAM.
But we know the reality of that. There ain't going to be tens of thousands. We've got the opportunity for thousands of AAM vehicles now. They're called helicopters, and there aren't thousands and thousands and thousands of them. The thousands and thousands that would be required to make any money for these startups with this brand new aircraft that they're going to get through certification, which would, goodness knows what that would cost in reality. And as Bruce says, they're all going to be delivering pizzas, which makes me ask, have you had your pizza yet from whoever it is that's delivering by drone?
I'm still waiting. The man on his moped still banging on the door.
Yeah. Well, no, that's funny. You're hitting on a funny note there because, I don't know if you are aware of this. You guys follow Twitter, whatever. It would appear that Chris Anderson is working for Kitty Hawk. And Kitty Hawk, the view. And he'll put stuff out there how it's going to be automated, or these AAM aircraft that have wings have higher efficiency. I mean, I'm wondering what the percentage is on that. Is it, I'm not falling out of the sky like a brick. It's more like a boulder, or vice versa. The friction coefficient.
It's interesting you're saying that they're looking at airways at like 2,000 feet for them. I don't think that's in all the renderings that we see that they're transiting those 2,000 feet. I don't think they have the power to transit up to 2,000 feet, fly somewhere and come down again.
No chance. Battery burn. If it's a V4, battery burn.
Yeah, but remember, if they're going to provide a safety mechanism, they'll need enough altitude for a ballistic parachute to actually fully deploy. So they'll have to fly at those high altitudes.
Yes, you're right. But then again, if you deploy that parachute on a windy day in a city centre, how much damage are you going to cause? You can't deploy
all buildings will be required to have bumpers around them made from old car tires. Solve the car tire recycling problem where you protect the people in the building. It's simple, little job tales.
Oh, yes. That's our business. We need to do that now. Building bumpers. Let's do it. That's it.
I see a patent in the wings here.
So can you imagine, though, one of these urban air mobility vehicles, it deploys its parachute and gets caught on the corner of a skyscraper. It's just hanging there.
We'll give them a squeegee and they can hit the windows while they're up there,
That sort of thing's happened. So ballistic, I'm not sure what the regulations are on ballistic parachutes in over the town centres. I'm pretty sure.
But they may need just a shroud to cover the bodies, aren't they?
Yeah, that's right. Exactly. Yeah, and you could put the number of the undertakers and all that, everything on there. You could have all the details you require, maybe some zips, and it could all be there.
And one other thing I want to hit on with the tracking is so this also, everybody again is green now, and it's climate change and all the rest of that. I mean, I could see where this tracking thing could turn into like a climate shaming thing, where you're the climate advocate, you're flying all over the world and people are tweeting out how many miles you got, or there's a lot of I don't think that this is going to work.
It's a pretty flawed business model because the barrier to entry is so low that every man and his dog will just go and float Radar 24 and set up their own millionaire tracking service. They'll be competing. There'll be not enough money to get them all in business. It'll all fold up.
Yeah, it just shows you how easy it is to do, though. And he's using the other one, isn't he? He's not using Flight Radar because, of course, Flight Radar obscures.
I just had an idea. In the final code for my ADSB alarm, I might put in an Elon alarm. So if his plane flies into the region, it'll be a special Elon alarm to let you know. And he'll pay me $5,000 to take that out.
Isn't there one of them? Is it now? I don't want to get it wrong. I don't want to miss because they might come after me. But isn't there one of these tracking services where you can pay them a bit of money not to appear?
So it's all of them basically.
Oh right, so I was going to say they all take a backhander, but I can't say that, can they? So they can take.
No,
can
it's
take
not a
some pennies.
backhander because it's not backhander because they're upfront about it.
Well,
Uphander,
It's
so
a
they can give an
consideration for
uphander,
services
not
rendered.
for fee.
There we go.
we have we already have some sort of tracking system for boats, like let's say on
Yeah.
down there in Florida, the Caribbean, and people, and they're already spoofing them and giving erroneous information. This speedboat with the bale of cocaine on it is not a fishing trawler.
Well, they're looking at that here in the UK as well, aren't they? They're on about anything over or under something around 4 meters in length or something. I can't remember exactly what it was.
Yes,
They're going to want to make it. They want to put tracking on all them as well. But again, people just. You can't stop hackers. Amazingly, anyone can spoof anything. If it's a computer, you can.
Dang it.
I could just put an AirTag on it. Put an AirTag.
I forgot to change the thing and tell them we're not running cocaine. Damn it.
Well,
Is there a special flag for cocaine bit in the data stream for cocaine carrying?
Well, you just put the flag up there with the martini glass and the lines and the pole and everything, So,
have we all seen this? I'm very late to the party with this Porter Pack. I'm going to add this to the screen. I'm very, very, very late to the party. Now, the old way of spoofing ADSB was to use X-Plane and pipe it into an actual ADSB setup, pipe up the output from X-Plane. Well, you don't need to do that anymore because this will do it out of the box.
Oh, good.
So this will transmit ADSB out of the box in a spoofy way. And look else what it will do. AIS boats, ACARS, that's the airline stuff. It'll listen to radar sondes. That's all the stuff it will do out of the box for, I don't know what that is in dollars, about $300 probably.
So do you think they'll come out with a remote ID one for drones where we can spoof our own stuff then?
Yeah, for certain. So if there's enough interest, someone will do it. So I was astounded. It used to be a little bit of a fudge to spoof ADSB. Now it's pay $300, hit the button, away you go.
Does it spoof GPS as well? That'd be handy. You just put it in the bushes beside where you're flying. Say, look, I haven't done anything wrong.
It might do actually.
Yeah, that's pretty funny.
Yeah, there it is. Yes, it does.
Oh, good, excellent, fantastic. So this is turning into the terrorist cookbook video.
It's it's the but it's a backpack that hackers various use when they go in to do pen testing in buildings. They use it. That's their device of choice now. But yeah, I am late. Yeah, I am, Mac. I'm very late on that. I want one. You're going to tell me you've got one, Mac.
Yes, imagine putting a fake remote ID device underneath a police car while it was busy asking you questions.
Oh,
well, I mean, how hard is it going to be? It's just going to be the Wi-Fi broadcast stand. It's just an app. You just build an app to broadcast it on Wi-Fi. I mean, it's going to be stupendously easy.
So the only thing that's a little bit, it wants like a little like kinetic charger. So because obviously the battery will go flat, it wants like a little kinetic charger. So like those motion ones for your.
Well, then it would be green. Then so that'd be okay because that would be green because it'd be charging itself as it went along. So we'd be making
and stick it under the police car. And stick it under the police car. So as it goes around the corners, it's self-charging.
Yeah, they haven't thought this through at all. I think perhaps it might be a good idea to have some sort of tracking on the aircraft. I think it's
so unusual for a bureaucracy to not think things through.
Well, especially if it's going to cost somebody money, let's just do it and then we'll think about it later. I don't know. I think it's a big mess. And what was it? Not last week, but the week before, we were talking about the 5G debacle. I don't know if that's died down. It's died down here in the United States. I don't know if it's died down elsewhere. But,
it wasn't a problem elsewhere.
Well, I know. The FAA was mocked, mercilessly about it. It's like you knew it was coming. The other inside thing is that I've been hearing about. I got a couple of moles over at the FAA, and they're saying, no, the new administration drones are not a priority. So who knows what's going to happen? This happens. It's cyclical. The other thing I think we need to do is, all of this bad regulation. It's really time for some more grassroots advocacy. I think that GA is just in shambles. I was laying in bed and I'm thinking about this before I went to bed. The airlines are doing a really good job. The safety record's really high. And I'd be interested in hearing everybody's opinion on what you would attribute that to. Is it regulation? Is it, the airline?
The efforts of ALPA. The efforts of ALPA to keep drones away. That's all it is.
Well, no, airline safety is quite interesting because, let's face it, it could be self-regulation, because who would get on a plane if you thought there was a chance of you not getting off the other end? So I, for one, wouldn't get on. I will not fly on the Air Max 8 again, right? I will not get on one. There is a risk, and it's a high. I consider the risk, although they've had the firmware fix, until it's been proven, I will not get onto the Boeing Air Max again, because there is that risk that I will not get from A to B. So if there's a plane and it's an aircraft, if they were falling out the sky all the time and leaving their bodies everywhere, would you get on the plane? It could be self-regulating, very simple.
Depends how many bodies.
No,
whose bodies?
Well,
that's my conclusion too. It's we've gotten to the point that if you're, whatever airline, and you have crashes, and it makes worldwide news, and 300 people died, you're not going to be. You better change your name, do a rebrand, and move on. So I don't really think I do think that some of the regulation may be helpful. I think some of the regulation may not be helpful, but I definitely believe, that is the case. Gary, I know you've got something that's less snarky than Bruce's comment.
No, I think that it is impossible. I think it's the training that the airline pilots go through, and the staff and the system, and they are up and out of the way. Big, reliable aircraft, good maintenance. It's the training and maintenance that GA pilots don't get. They get their,
and it's dictated by the commercial imperative, isn't it? The commercial imperative is not to have crashes because it ruins your bottom line as a business.
Yeah,
and that was my next question. What's the problem with GA?
Lack of training, lack of maintenance. Bravado, get their itis spirit,
drones.
Drones.
The belief they are above everyone else. They believe they can't be taught new stuff half the time. They've got the best training. They know best, regardless. Even they can't. It's like everything. We all get stuck in a certain mindset. All of us are guilty of it. Everyone. They become the belief that they are better than everyone else. I've met a few airline pilots and they fly drones, but they believe they can fly better than everyone else, or they operate better.
The damned annoying thing is most of them can.
No, not with the same aircraft. So if I can't fly a plane, I would not try to fly a 747. It's not going to make it. Okay, it's not going to get to its destination. Give me a drone.
No,
but we've got pilots in our club, and like we've got an airline pilot, and I've flown with other airline pilots, and without exception, they are really good model flyers. They understand the theory of flight. They understand all the things you need to be a good pilot, and they just have good brain-hand coordination. Perhaps it's because people that aren't good pilots never become airline pilots, but airline pilots make really good model flyers.
Yeah, I know a few. Now, mentioned in the comments, Kamangu Samuel Mate came in late. Was to hear inputs on the crash that happened in India. Did we all see that video of the big crop spraying thing, parade in India, crop spraying, quite a big thing. And funny enough, blow me down if I didn't see exactly a similar model today in the little village on the. It was a big ZAG XAG agricultural drone, and it crashed into the crowd, and it looks like a chap took quite a chunk of carbon prop to his back, a big one as well. So yeah, if you've not seen it, then, but of course the guy. Well, this speaks to the airline pilots' conceit that you might think is there, Mark. But this lad flying this thing thought he was Tom Cruise before it crashed. He's in his suit and posing and doing all this stuff. And
to be honest, drone training could be better, because we have the A2CFC here across Europe. There's no flight test with it. It's just a certificate of competence. Competence of what? Learning something and ticking it box. There's no flight test. There's no training as such, which is very bad. And when you go to do your GVC flight test, you're expected to know the basics, and you only have to prove you can do the basics. You don't have to prove any real flying. Now, I should think Bruce can confirm this, but in the UK we have the BMFA. So model flying, they have the achievement scheme, the A and the B, fixed wing, helicopter, whatever. I should think in New Zealand you got the same sort of thing as well, Bruce?
Yeah, we have a thing called wings. And the interesting thing is, to get your multi-rotor wings, you must be able to fly line of sight in rate mode, no self-leveling. And so, goodness me.
Same sort of thing here. Oh, heck, that's... Oh, yeah, you didn't want to take a hit from that.
Oh, ouchie.
Do you know what? If those props weren't spinning, you'd be grateful, because you would not want those props to be
but
spinning.
look at this bloke on the ground.
Look,
there's something sticking out of him. No, but there's something sticking out of him as well.
There's nothing. And the worst thing is, even as a pilot, when they go, no, it's not. Oh.
No, this is the before footage. We'll see our man in a minute. Here we are. Here's the hero.
What's he flying? What's that? What's that transmitter?
I don't know what that is.
That's like a CT, is it?
It could even be something
That
like
is
this.
a clone. It is that one there. Yes, Gary, it is that.
Yeah.
I've got
How could he crash? How could he possibly crash? He's so well dressed.
Exactly.
I know what it is. That jacket was covering his epaulets on his shirt, so they were not effective.
Straight away you're going, he's overflying people.
Yeah.
It's a big machine. There's so many things there that my brain's screaming shouldn't be done from the first part. And you see it right in his face now. Oh yeah, someone's yeah.
Regulation is no substitute for common sense.
No.
There's a sheer lack there of what should and shouldn't be done, because you should never be flying that kind of size machine over people at all. Quite clearly from the get-go, whoever arranged that demo did not do it right. The amount of things that I could just tick off.
I think they were doing what they do here, and the crop dusting guys have done it here. At events like this, they spray water as a service to the community. They call you down.
You don't spray it over people.
No, you do. Well, you don't spray it to the stand.
Well, maybe he ran out of water and decided to use blood.
Yeah, here it comes. Here it is. It's in the hover. And there it goes.
Oh, it looks like one of the motors just dropped to one side, didn't it? It's hard to tell what it did.
Have you seen that video of how they repair mag wheels in India, where they just basically bash them out and solder them up with zinc? Maybe that's how they repair their drones there.
It could be.
Yeah, and I'm not going to, let's say, just malign India, because I've seen people do stupid stuff, man. And they
what are you doing at my place?
They think that they're, hot shots. But that's like, if someone was like, hey, you want to fly? I'd be like, are you crazy? I'm going to do that. What do I look? That's, might look crazy, but that's crazy.
That's the whole problem with this stuff. You can do it 1,000 times and it's perfect, and that 1,001th time something goes wrong. But you get complacent because people say to me, I've flown over people heaps of times, and I say, yeah, but one blade, one prop, one time, one motor, it's all it takes.
You see, over here, the only good thing the difference between the A2 CFC that I hold and then the GBC and CA operational authorization is I can actually overfly roads, the odd person. You wouldn't fly a crowd. I wouldn't be flying near anything like that. But I've got to cross a road to do something. I will happily fly across a road. But you do all your pre-flight. Obviously, I'm assuming this gentleman did his pre-flights as well. But yeah, a chance of something like, yeah.
But in New Zealand, according to our regulations, if you're flying, say you're doing some farm work when there's a road run through, like paddock on one side of the road, paddock on the other, you have to land your drone and walk it across the road to do the next paddock.
What?
So
Yep, that's the way it works. You're not allowed to fly over public roads in New Zealand under any way, shape, or form.
I don't know how it is in the rest of the world, but some of the guys I've seen here, they, propellers with cracks in them.
I've seen that as well. I've seen that. Oh, it'll be all right. It'll be all right.
They're not that expensive, and when you have a catastrophic failure, when that prop snaps and you have a catastrophic failure, you're gonna wish you spent the $5. But bam,
that is that kind of stuff that makes my head scream, because I used to teach you do not fly with a damaged prop. Now the leading edge, of course, is the worst place to have any kind of damage. The trailing edge, as a model flyer, it's had a little tiny 2 mil nick. I've flown, but however, I've only finished the day, then I've thrown it away. I've been very careful. It's a model plane. The environment I'm in, I know I've got a 2 mil nick out the back of the prop.
With those plastic props, once the hub gets really white, I don't use them anymore.
Yeah, exactly. So here's a story. I did a crop surveying. I did crop mapping. So do we know RAF Cranwell?
Yes.
Very well. Right. So the A17, and I was in a field right next to RAF Cranwell. So we rung them beforehand. We have full permission for this. Literally, because of the wind direction, we said, okay, we're going to fly, but we've got to fly over the road, turn over RAF Cranwell to come back again. So I'm just creeping over into there. They were happy with it. They were fine. This was a few years ago. They were perfectly fine because their runway was shut down. They had big maintenance going on. They weren't flying at all for 2 weeks or whatever. And I was literally flying over the A17. It was an EB, so it was a foamy, but we're just flying up and down the field. And it's quite bizarre when you're stood there watching the drone, got the computer, got everything, and I'm like, let's just... Because like Bruce says, some things can just happen. It's like, I don't want anything to happen. And going to Cranwell and go, can I have drone back, please?
I have to sign off. I've got an exciting telecon to go do.
Thank God for that. Ian, is that time you went to?
It's Ian. Ian's going to go as well. I think we might do this. Well, we should just round this well. We should make this one a neat hour, like it's supposed to be.
It's 3 hours of run. You never mentioned that before now.
Well, no, it would be nice to break with tradition, wouldn't it? And actually do an hour instead of 2.5 to 3 hours. I tell you what, it's so hot here today. You are so lucky. Before we started, I thought, take my shirt off, it's too hot. And then I thought, no, that would be a bad idea for this. That would be a bad idea to be shirtless.
You don't want to confuse your OnlyFans channel with this one.
Exactly. That's right. Mixed revenue streams.
Everyone wants to know, Gary, do you have an OnlyFans page so they can get that?
Of course. And only my fans know that. Yeah.
Well, I think you're just fulfilling the threat that I made before where I said if you didn't, like, share, and subscribe, there's going to be some nudity.
Hit that notification. What else they say? Hit that notification bell. You say like, share, and subscribe, and something about being reminded or something like that. I don't know.
Well, the idea is with the algorithm is that this good news and this venue gets out there, and hopefully more people learn something of value about this industry. Because there's a lot of good insight here, except for Bruce's snarky comments. But I'm tempted to fly down there to New Zealand to go to one of his town council meetings. I bet you after a couple of beers, that thing's a hoot. I'd be back there laughing my head off.
What time are the council meetings generally, Bruce?
About 9 o'clock to 9. Well, start 9 o'clock or 9:30, depending on whether
what time do the bottle stores open?
They never close.
They never close. So it's okay. So we could go to the bottle store first.
Yeah. Preload. Always preload before the meetings.
Yeah. But did they let you speak, or did they cut you off, Bruce?
Oh, they won't let me speak anymore. Forbidden, verboten. Hey, we will not have truth in this meeting.
Hang on. Point of order, everybody. It looks like Ian there had something like chocolate biscuits or something, and he's not sharing them.
What the hell, man?
Oh, geez. Tight.
Chocolate biscuits.
Is that chocolate hobnobs?
Chocolate hobnobs, yeah.
Is it? You see, that's biscuit identification from 6,000 miles away.
Well, in that case, then, would anyone like a chocolate? I will share. Does anyone want chocolate?
All right. See you guys.
Right. Look after yourselves. Cheers, man. Cheers. Oh, he's gone now. That's good. No, I know you've got to go in as well. Close looking. Looks like a drone had folding props. It could have done, Mac. But it was
just after the landing anyway.
I mean, those props must have been
big, weren't they?
20-inch plus.
Yeah, they were big. They were big. It was
and
a big thing.
I have to say, that's the worst incident I've ever seen of a drone flying out the sky.
No, Dovran's mentioned the skier. Do you remember the skier one a few years ago when the thing
that missed him,
down?
didn't it?
Yeah.
That missed everyone. That did miss everyone. This is the one. That's the worst one I've seen where it's hit someone.
In some ways, if you had folding props, it would have done less damage to the person because obviously the props would have just folded in. But I don't know. I have a feeling that was probably not foldies. I wonder if they were flying it in something like acro or something like that, because it didn't look like a typical motor drop. It sort of looked as he'd gone banked angle over, and either it lost its center of gravity or something, then flipped it.
Or he got disoriented.
Yeah. He might have loose controller, something. Love to know what they were flying. Yeah, would love to know what it was flying.
Because so, did you ever see the one? I think it was one of the like X Factor shows years and years ago. Did you ever see that one? And the audience one. So they were flying near an audience, but they were flying over the Thames. So the aircraft literally, and you can see it falls in on itself. It was. At the time, it would have been either a Wukong or an AT flight controller in my head. And it did look like it was a hex or an octo.
But they had the spinny roundy. If one motor failed, they'd spin around and just descend.
You literally see it. It drops in on itself.
It could even be the battery and the SE shut down.
It could even
be as simple as
and if you lose a motor, you tend to get quite a bit of rotation as well because the torque is unbalanced. That just sort of
the rotation is there.
Fell out the sky. It just
I realised I couldn't play it back at a slower speed, which is what I should have done in the first place.
I'm watching it on a bigger screen
because there is definitely rotation there.
Yeah, you watch. It drops it's this right motor. It's this back right near us that goes.
Yeah, you sort of see everything looks fairly slow.
See, I reckon this bloke rushing across here is rushing to get this lot out of the way or do something else. Or maybe not.
In a second, it's just going to lose its.
There's probably a better video of this out somewhere. Here, there it is.
There we go. It's that.
Oh, he stopped. That one stopped. Yeah,
it did.
He saw.
Yeah, you're right, Ian. You can literally see that one just go.
That one blade just stopped completely.
Yeah.
You can
now,
there it is. Stopped.
Yeah.
He stopped. Yeah.
He stopped.
Yeah.
And look, is it that one that spears into the bloke?
It's the dagger blade.
Yeah.
Yes.
What's interesting is how fast that blade come to an actual standstill as well. Do you know it instantly?
Magnet might have come off in the motor, eh?
Yeah, it could even be a seize.
And what this also shows is why big machines like this, you want an XA configuration or you want a hex.
Oh, it is rotating, but it's.
Yeah, so if this had been an XA
configuration. I'm trying to see who's on the ground because I haven't been.
It's this bloke on the right. See the guy in the yellow? It's the guy past him. There's that guy there. There it is. It's the guy to
looks
the
like
left.
He caught his leg, doesn't it?
Ooh.
Well, that guy was very close to the other guy in yellow.
Yeah,
there.
he was lucky.
But he's down.
Yeah, it looked like it knocked his leg out from under him, actually.
Yeah. Pretty nasty.
Here it comes one last time.
Look at that.
Yeah,
I think that it stopped after the first time.
Stopped.
It actually looks like it did try to recover, didn't it? That you can see it doesn't just drop down. It's trying to hold itself.
Bubble in the fuel line.
Yeah, it does something.
Yeah. But that's what I was looking at, thinking there was that a bit of prop. It's a stick or whatever he's carrying. So the prop's still there, or half of them, they're still on the machine.
And they are folding props. You can see that one's folded, the one that's
The
highest
one
most. Both blades are pointed down. So
Yeah.
It would be a heck of a shot, though, wouldn't it? Would be a heck of a
I was going to
shot.
make a
Yeah,
mess
well,
of you.
it's something out
Gonna
of the
make
blue
a
from behind you, isn't it? And that's the problem, you know.
You've heard that before. Anyway,
those cold nights in the park, eh?
Only when
Yeah,
I'm lucky with some sheep.
big machines like that, when you fly them near people and over people, though, what
Yeah, that should
would make you think that's even safe? You know,
Well, safety isn't a big thing in India, though. You look at the way they drive. It's not like personal safety just doesn't seem to come into a lot of things. Look at the wiring. Have you looked at the overhead wiring in an Indian city where it's all cobbled together with jumper clips and things? No, personal safety is not the big thing.
If I pull up a sandbag, here comes some stories from further up in Africa, but just from things that would kill us in for a second. And we got a guy in from India to do repairs on the balloon because I was working for an Indian company. And our crew, we had the thing out in the field, the generator on, just a couple of twisted wires on the generator, the sewing machine. The chap, one of our crew guys, stood on the twisted pairs, and the generator just went. I would have killed you or I. We'd have been dead. And then another time, I see, and last one, I won't do another. So the steamer, the generator used to go off at 6 o'clock in the evening. And so we had to get the vehicles filled with petrol. And me and Andrew were stood in our crew quarters, and they were pumping the vehicles just before 6, and the pump caught fire. And because the steamer was going to go off at 6 o'clock, they kept pumping the petrol into the cars with the pump on fire. And Andrew and I were beleaguering away. So yeah, it's amazing how things. Have we talked about the Russian? What about the Russian? Oh, what do we know about the Russian?
What's that now? Give
us more of a clue. Give us more of a clue, Dorvans.
Are you talking about what they're about to do, what they might do, or are we talking about, they've cleared everyone from Chernobyl, haven't they? Which is
surprised. I'm surprised they've not gone yet into Ukraine.
They've got to wait till after the Olympics. China's asked them to not do it until after the Olympics because they don't want it ruining their lovely winter games.
No.
But yeah,
Boris will go over there and talk to them and come back with peace in our time.
Boris will party on the way over.
Hang on. Russian tourists who just got flying over. No, I didn't.
Oh no, did that just recently?
No, I've seen. Saw the guy, not Jordan, Iraq or Iran or wherever he went.
No, that's right. Ellen, you talked about that this morning about the drone flying over the Gustav 16 or something or other's castle and things.
Yeah, and he was
illegal, and they've been flying over power stations and things too. Don't know if it's the same guy.
Yeah,
don't people grasp that if you go to another country, especially other countries with not the same values and the same sort of stuff, you're going to end up in deep trouble. They will lock you away.
I'm gonna have, and then we're gonna go out. I'm gonna talk a story to Mac Vision. Have you seen the driving test in India? I'll tell you, when we used to take our guys in Voi for a driving test, there were no roundabouts in that part of Kenya, so they had a model roundabout, and you had to drive the cars around the roundabout to show how roundabouts work.
That had never done Milton Keynes.
No.
Well, in Kazakhstan, on roundabouts, you have to yield to people coming onto the roundabout. So you're on the roundabout, you have to yield to cars coming on the roundabout.
How would you ever get off?
I'll tell you, right, having driven there, it's bonkers. It was really bonkers. The best thing is, the boss, as long as the boss was in the car and he was insured and everything, I could drive. So he could be sat, he would get to the pub, have a few drinks, because I don't drink. He drinks, and then I drive, because why not?
Same there.
And I think I'll keep that story till off air, the one where we got pulled over.
Yeah.
And if you want to see that story, subscribe now.
Yes, absolutely.
That will only be in the after show.
So we've gone 13 minutes. So you see, this is the accidental going into 2 hours. We've definitely
I'm going now, so we need to call it.
Ian's got to go. Ian's got to go.
I'm trying to keep it longer than he should do.
Yeah. All right. So I think going once, going twice. If you are wherever you are in the world, be safe. Look after yourselves, and we'll see you again 2100 GMT next week and see what's happening.
GMT. I'll have a GMT.
GMT.
Yeah, no worries.
Cheers, everyone. Take care. Bye bye.